Discover a world beyond your wildest dreams. Discover Atari.
The 80s. A decade of big fads, big spending, and big hair. Today we'll be looking upon the pop culture, politics, and economics of the decade, and how it affects us today or doesn't affect us today. That's up to you. But if you're ready, strap in for 80s at a glance. Yeah, I remember the word not. I used to tell it to my friend Bob, whenever he asked me, "Hey Mike, you like my new shoes?" And I say, "Yeah, they're totally rad." And when he asks me, "Really?" And I get him when I say, "Not!" And I buried him good. And it was hilarious back in the 80s when I used to say that with such sarcasm. Yeah, Jammer the Holograms was, basically a cartoon where a bunch of teens fought off the bad guys with the power of music. More girls wearing penny loafers, but it was really comfortable. Not that I know, it's only for women. And then there was Tone Lock. He used to sing "Wild Thing," and everyone used to imitate him by singing that song. I couldn't do it personally, "Wild Thing." Yeah, the denim jackets, dark blue, light blue, and it even had that, white cottony material inside to keep you warm. I remember a lot when I was playing, Mario Brothers, Tetris, Metroid, Castlevania. There are lots of classics that are now that were very popular back in the 80s. All from Nintendo, this Japanese company that nobody had ever heard about until they came out with the game system. And now they're really popular now, And it's amazing how they did that. I remember the Care Bears. They were colorful, adorable, and they're my furry little friends that taught me to care. I also remember my hyper-colored t-shirts. They used to change with the temperature of the water, and I remember them bleeding into my laundry one day. That wasn't very good. It was He-Man. It was all about He-Man and the Master of the Universe. If you're the Master of the Universe, what more could you be? I remember using the word psych with my friend. And when he used to ask, "Hey, who'd you buy that ice cream for?" I used to say, "I bought it for you." And he asked, "Really?" And I say, "Psych! I bought it for me." I used to be so sarcastic. I think I still am now. Goatee beards were really catching on, and they were really mainstream. People were also keeping up their hair with hairspray, big, poofy, pointy hair with their Aquanet hairspray, like gallon after gallon after gallon. Miami Vice was like the bomb, it was popularized by Don Johnson. His character really fit in with what he was trying to do, and his fashion, whatever he wore, that was what it was in for me. And I used to try to wear what he was always trying to wear. Boom boxes were really loud, obviously. I mean, you had like these 8 diesel batteries powering these big speakers. You could hear 100 miles away, yards away. And they came with dual cassette, and when CDs were coming out, it also was there. And sometimes it got annoying to a lot of people, and they were like disturbing the peace. But I was like, I don't care. Rock on the music, brother. And it's still popular because some of them come with the MP3 capability, but I don't really carry around them with me anymore. Rubik's Cube was really interesting about this Erno Rubik guy, and he solved, he came up with this way of teaching his students, but I didn't really care. I just tried to solve it, but I never got to it because I could never figure out how to do it. Aside from that, I used to hang out at the video arcades. They were so in during the 80s. I used to have a donut while I was playing all those classic video games. Yeah, I can remember listening on TV when Reagan was asked about him secretly selling weapons to Iran to encourage the release of the American hostages that were taken in from terrorist actions. But Reagan answered, I don't remember 137 times. It probably wasn't consecutive, but I'm sure that's still a lot if you say, I don't remember, I don't remember, I don't remember. I mean, it gets rather annoying, I guess. But that's how it went out. You probably wouldn't associate blueberry flavored jelly beans with President Reagan, but I guess you have to guess again. He was the reason why they were created. They were created just for him. But the thing is that he liked licorice. Anyway, it was cool because about 400 million jelly beans were consumed during the inaugural meetings. And I guess during that time, blueberry was, just made for Ronald Reagan. I'm not sure why. But it's pretty cool. Yeah, when you're speaking with President Reagan, he's unlike any celebrity you've ever talked to. You sometimes forget that you are talking to the former president of the US. And the quickest way to become his friend, tell him a great joke. He'll come back at you with a joke of his own. You can tell him another joke, then he'd have another story to tell you. And then, it can go on endlessly, but he's a really fun guy, and he has a marvelous sense of humor. Yeah, if you could sum up the whole decade of the 80s into one word, you could probably say greed. Yeah, there's a lot of greed. The 80s became a decade of consumerism, if you look at it in an economic perspective. And the US began to import lots of stuff that it could export, and there's a lot of unemployment. Reagan's policies tried to promote the free enterprise and try to reinvigorate the economy, and he believed that tax cuts would increase overall revenue and go by this kind of Reaganomics coined by this broadcaster Eric Rivera. In 1980, in that decade, there was a comedy skit made by Rich Little, a very good impressionist. He looks just like it when you see him in the photos and the videos, and began interviewing Reagan on this show and invited him to talk about his policies. And it's funny that Reagan delivered an explanation, and Rich Little responded with, Mr. President, that would be a mess. And Reagan would reply, that's right. So that was sort of confusing. But it is controversial whether Reaganomics really did improve or deprive. My parents were usually out of a job 2 weeks before after they were employed. So maybe it was just a kind of job, I'm not really sure. But overall, the economic it grew slightly, and the inflation and the unemployment, but they also rose. It was an argument that Reaganomics wasn't the cause of it also, because since before, even in the 60s and the 70s, the economy was already in trouble before Reagan ran as president.